Now that Jurassic World Rebirth is out, it's time to rank all the films in the Jurassic Park/World series from the worst to the least worst. Before I hop into the ranking, keep in mind this is just my opinion. Share how you'd rank the films in the comment section down below. And to be completely real with you guys, I think we all know what's coming in at number 1, so all the ones below it, I really don't care how anyone ranks those. And with that being said, let's hop right into it. Easily coming in last place is Jurassic Park III. And to the film's credit, this might have the most scary tension out of any Jurassic Park movie. But other than that, when it comes to the basic story here, it's just absolutely ridiculous, where it's basically about a kid getting stuck on the island after he was parasailing with his mom's boyfriend. And so then his mom and dad, who are divorced, act like they're this rich couple, and they literally hire mercenaries and convince Alan Grant to go on the island with them, saying that they want to fund his research when in reality they want to look for their son. And all these characters just trust the couple. I mean, they don't fact check them at all, they don't look into it, so the entire premise relies on these characters being stupid. And then just overall, while there is some typical dinosaur destruction and violence that you would expect from these movies, it just really doesn't have that much to offer, and it feels like the story is kind of rushed at certain points, especially in the ending. It's very abrupt. But on that same note, this movie also just feels super boring because nothing about it is remotely interesting, and all these characters are just super annoying and kind of insufferable.
Amanda, honey, Dr. Grant said that's a bad idea.
What?
Except for Alan Grant, of course, the OG. Coming in at number 6 is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And this is a movie that actually kind of has some interesting ideas here and there, but the execution for those ideas wasn't really that good, because it kind of sets up this controversy of should humans rescue dinosaurs from the island because there's a volcano that's going to go off and they would be letting them die. And the reasonable answer would be no, because humans literally put dinosaurs back on the earth and the dinosaurs only want to kill the humans. And so you could very easily just have them die without the blood even being on your hands. But of course the main characters are stupid and they want to rescue the dinosaurs, and the film doesn't really dive into that controversy too much because the government ultimately decides not to help them, but the main characters and this other team of people go to do it anyways. And then it just dives into this whole thing about auctioning the dinosaurs at a mansion.
Are you serious?
And I do appreciate that, like, it's trying to do something a little bit different with the whole mansion setting, working a horror aspect into that, which it kind of does that pretty well. But this is also a movie that can be kind of boring from time to time. And upon that, when it comes to our main characters, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, it didn't feel like they had too much character development. Although I will say that most of the new characters they introduced in this movie are pretty interesting. Coming in at number 5 is The Lost World Jurassic Park. And I do appreciate how this movie focuses on Ian Malcolm the GOAT. But when it comes to the side characters, his girlfriend, his daughter, and just the other people on the team, they're all pretty forgettable and just don't really have too much of a personality. And so much of this movie is just spent on an island as this team is trying to stop another team from InGen from exploiting the dinosaurs. And there are some individual sequences that are actually very good where there's some tension. The characters are just in some tight spots with some dinosaurs. But just the story as a whole doesn't flow together too nicely. And then at the ending, they just have this huge sequence where it's about a T-Rex going crazy in San Francisco. I mean, that's just way more interesting than being on the island. I don't understand why they'd never made a whole movie about a dinosaur going crazy in a city. That deserved to be so much more than just the ending. Coming in at number 4 is the newest one, Jurassic World Rebirth. And I think this is just a case where, to put it simply, the movie doesn't really do anything that offends me. It also doesn't really do anything that impresses me. It's just kind of another generic adventure that does some stuff right. The new characters are compelling enough. When they're on the island, there is some pretty good tension, some pretty good horror aspects. And this is also probably the funniest movie in the franchise. There are just quite a few little lighthearted moments here and there where characters' personalities make them funny. But even though this movie does quite a few things right, it might be the most predictable movie in the entire franchise. It has the same problem as the other movies where all the main characters have plot armor, they only kill off the characters you don't care about. And then they do the exact same evil villain where it's just some guy that wants money.
How original.
And they're not afraid to have a ton of product placement in this movie. I mean, there was just so much candy. But anyways, at the end of the day, this movie was just kind of another middle-of-the-road Jurassic Park adventure. That's fun enough, but it's not really great. Coming in at number 3 is Jurassic World 2015. And I thought this movie actually did have a few good ideas with having Jurassic World actually become this utopian park where people can actually look at dinosaurs in a safe, controlled environment. And then it also kind of sets up the idea that people are getting tired of dinosaurs, and so they have to make a super cool one that's genetically modified, and then it gets loose. Anyway, some of the new characters in this movie are pretty interesting, especially with Chris Pratt in the lead and Kingpin as the villain, who's not even that bad. You know who the real villain of this movie is, though? Bryce Dallas Howard. She literally put people at risk and didn't warn them fast enough about the dinosaur on the loose because she was worried about what this could mean for the Jurassic World and them not making enough money. I mean, that is literally the worst scenario of all the villains in this franchise, how they want money. She follows that exact same stereotype and it's at its worst, and somehow she's the good guy. And really, at the end of the day, this is not a movie that swings for the fences. It doesn't try to be super great, it just tries to kind of be fun, and that's kind of what it is. You get a bunch of stupid stuff like Chris Pratt riding on a motorcycle with a bunch of raptors running with him. That literally lasts for like 5 seconds. But for what it is, it's entertaining enough if you're into this stuff. Coming in at number 2 is Jurassic World Dominion. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I want to make this clear. I do not think this is a good movie. I don't think it's a well-made movie. But I enjoyed this more than the movies below it. Because what this movie does is it actually brings back the original cast of the original trilogy. You have Ellie Sattler, you have Ian Malcolm, and of course you have Alan. I mean, this movie literally does what the Star Wars sequel trilogy failed to do with Luke, Han, and Leia. You gotta give it credit where credit's due. Now, to be clear, this movie fell very short of its potential. Remember how I said I wished a dinosaur was roaming around in a huge city like one did at the end of Lost World? This was the perfect opportunity because dinosaurs were scattered throughout America, but when you have the characters with dinosaurs, none of the locations are really big cities or anything like that. Not to mention, I feel like they keep the new trilogy cast and the original trilogy cast separated for a little bit too long. Really, everyone doesn't meet up until like the end of the movie, which is a pretty cool sequence. But before then, they're like completely separated because Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have to go rescue the girl that was kidnapped. I really don't think they had to add that into the story. And then the cast of the original trilogy are just trying to expose
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here!
So was this movie as good as it should have been? No, they do some weird stuff with the plot and it focuses too much on locusts. But at the end of the day, I really enjoyed seeing the original trilogy cast unite, and you even get to see them interact with the new trilogy cast at the end. But coming in at number 1, without question, is the original Jurassic Park film. This is just a very enjoyable film where it actually had novelty to dinosaurs attacking humans because it was the first time they did it, and this has some of the best action in the entire franchise. Whenever they used animatronics for the dinosaurs, that holds up better than the modern day CGI. And just from beginning to end, this is a very well crafted story where Steven Spielberg was cooking the whole time and you had John Williams doing the score. And just all these characters are very compelling. I mean, what can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It's basically a masterpiece. Although admittedly it's not really like one of my favorite movies of all time because I'm not super huge on dinosaurs, but I get why it is a lot of people's favorite. Overall though, that was my ranking of the Jurassic Park / World franchise. Let me know in the comments section down below how you'd rank these movies. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.